So how did the arrangement come about then that Rocketplane merged with Kistler?
The Kistler had raised huge amounts of money, going from 93, 94 all the way up to about 2000. The same meltdown in the overall economy and the total death of the Leo constellation market with the bankruptcy of Iridium and Globalstar pretty much cut off the funding stream for Kistler, and the only real thing they had left was something out of the Space Launch Initiative, which was the NASA program after X-33 and X-34 were canceled. And they had what was really a COTS contract. It didn't call it that at the time, but that's what it was. It was a demo contract to provide cargo to the space station, and most of the money was pay on delivery. But for Kistler, that was that was enough to keep going, keep the engineering moving, and so they were moving along fine on what was given to Kistler as a sole source contract in 2001 to do this COTS-like ISS demo. I don't know if this is generally known or not anymore, but one of the very first things that Elon Musk did in 2002 when he hung out the shingle for SpaceX was file a protest with the GAO over the sole source contract, because the reason for a sole source is that there are no other providers. So Elon hung out the shingle on SpaceX and said, nope, it's not sole source anymore, and the GAO prevailed. And they took away the Kistler contract for what would have been a COTS flight. The main investor at the time that was carrying Kistler was a big New York Wall Street hedge fund, and when they lost their contract, they took it in Chapter 11, laid everybody off, and between 2002 or 3, something like that, through 2005, Kistler went through a Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization, and under the leadership of this hedge fund that was the main stockholder at the time, came out of bankruptcy in 2005 with a completely clean balance sheet, and charged off almost the entire $600 million of previous investment, and came out clean in 2005, right when NASA was trying to figure out what to do about resupplying the space station, and ultimately they came out with the COTS program. But the investor that had taken Kistler all the way through bankruptcy, in the process of doing that, had pretty well pissed off most of the people in the industry when they were charging off all their big money. So it was difficult for Kistler as an independent company to mount a successful team, put together an industry teaming agreement with the various players that you needed to do in order to be able to compete for the NASA contract. So Kistler was out, but was kind of like the wallflower on the dance floor that nobody wanted to talk to. And so at the same time, we at Rocketplane had put together a successful business, had a good engineering and technical team going, working on the suborbital space plane in Oklahoma. We had 60 or 70 engineers, technicians. We were building stuff. All the videos with the hardware on the shop floor and everything that people are showing now, we had all that in 2004 and 2005. And so we had a good little entrepreneurial company. We had demonstrated that we could raise money, we could work the business side, and so my boss and friend and partner George French put together this strategy to get controlling interest of Kistler and merge the two companies and use that as the entity to bid for COTS. And it turned out to be successful. 16 proposals in round one, 6 shortlist proposals in round two, and ultimately, everybody knew that SpaceX was going to get one of them. So the other 15 players at the table were all fighting over the only other single spot, because everybody knew SpaceX was an automatic. Given their history and the fact that they If they didn't win, that they were going to protest and probably kill the whole program. Nobody ever assumed that they wouldn't get one of the two awards. So we won against some fairly heavy competition on the basis of the maturity and the capacity of the Kistler vehicle, and the fact that it really was a game changer. To go from an entirely expendable architecture to an entirely reusable architecture had the potential to change a whole lot of things in the world of space transportation. And so the people in the COTS program office figured, well, what the heck? We made a very aggressive bid from a financial side. The ratio of private money to public money was much more leveraged for private dollars, more private, less public with us than with SpaceX's bid. And so we figured at the time, which was in early 2006, before all the storm clouds started gathering on the financial horizon, that going out and raising $500+ million in the capital markets was a reasonable thing, given that you had a government contract as a technology development award and the potential for literally billions of dollars in revenue from commercial space station servicing. So it was a relatively conservative model, but it involved having to raise a lot of cash. And the investment bankers and all of the people that were advising us on this in early 2006, oh yeah, money's rolling in the streets. The hedge funds and investment bankers have got more money than they know what to do with. Just as easy to raise 500 million as a million. These were things that mainstream Wall Street guys were telling us and looking us straight in the face and saying, yeah, sure, it's no problem. You guys can go out and raise, you get this contract, you can go out and raise 500 million, no problem at all. In early 2006, that was probably true. Unfortunately, the investment bankers that we were using were several months late, more than several months late in delivering the investment banker book that you needed to do to go out and pitch Wall Street. And we weren't really out in the capital markets trying to raise this big round until summer of 2007. And even though most of the mainstream public didn't know that there was a big problem with things like secondary mortgage crisis and AIG and Lehman and all the other things that were going to hit the fan a year or so later, the people on Wall Street knew that there were in fact big storm clouds over the horizon, and nobody was doing any deals of any size unless they were ironclad 3 times over. And so we were caught in the gears and ground up and spit out.